Good morning. It's Saturday, January 15th, 2022. I woke up, I was perusing Race Department, and I happened to find this article, NASCAR 21 Ignition Development Roadmap Revealed. Now, m- my first my first racing on the computer was the Papyrus series, GPL Grand Prix Legends, and then I think it was NASCAR. Trying to think what the name of the disc were. I still had the disc somewhere upstairs in the attic. Uh, there was a Papyrus game before they started naming the years. I forget what it was called, but it had trucks. It was really good. It was very good. And then they had NASCAR 2002. They had NASCAR 4. I think it was called NASCAR 4 was by Papyrus, and NASCAR 2000 and NASCAR 2003, 2, NASCAR 2003. Very, very super good games, really. I mean, the physics was a little, the cars could feel like they were a little bit on the pendulum at times, like a little snappy, but super good physics and pretty darn good net code. And the game was set up, was really easy to use the replay system, point system. It was really well, really, really grade A. I feel like there's always room for improvement. And then EA came along and bought the license for NASCAR, and that set in a whole bunch of repercussions to the NASCAR online world, because that was in effect when EA bought the rights to NASCAR, set in motion what is to be now iRacing. And when iRacing came out, initially it was to be called First. And before it was First, it was actually alpha test, quote unquote, on a website called Project Wildfire. And Project Wildfire had people, like Dave Kamer, uh, trying to think of some of the names, Nim Cross, um, Shannon Whitmore, all like guys that are now iRacing administration and workers. And on Project Wildfire, when you logged on the front page, it had a little video of the different mods they were making for NASCAR 2003 with a Johnny Cash song, Ring of Fire. And basically, what they had on their website was mods for NASCAR 2003 that included a Trans Am series, CTS Truck Series, uh, Grand National Series, I believe, and there might have been a couple others that they had made, and it was basically the beginning of for iRacing, not the beginning of mods for NASCAR 2003, but the beginning of multi-car racing, which was in the Trans Am mod for NASCAR 2003. And basically, the beginning of iRacing is, in a nutshell, I raced all of that. And basically, I could call myself iRacing alpha tester and beta tester, because I joined iRacing before it was actually released. And then eventually I just become a bit disenchanted with it. I didn't really like their officiating too much, and they're way too slow to add things. The mod makers in NASCAR 2003 should have been hired, because they were very fast to come out with fixes and crush bugs and everything else, including like it took iRacing forever just to put in a working pit crew, which made no sense at all, because mod makers could do that. If you turned it over to mod makers, they could do it in like a week probably. Just simple things like that. And for me, even so, by far the king of all oval racing was Papyrus, however you want to say it, and iRacing, both of which are still the king today of oval or NASCAR style racing. So, bring us up today, EA took over and they just made it was really, really a giant pile of dung. If you had raced the Papyrus games and then went to EA, it was just like, if you just came to EA, it would be like, oh, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. But not so great. And then R Factor started trying to do NASCAR games, and it was horrible. I don't care what anyone says; it was absolutely dreadful. If you were used to those Papyrus games, everything else was, I hate to use the word garbage, but like, let's just say a serious step down, almost like a avalanche down a hill. That drastic a difference. So then they came out with Equinox, which is a European company, came out with a NASCAR game, also dreadful. And I'm sorry to say, this might sound terribly awful on my part, but Europeans cannot make a NASCAR game. They're too far away, and to make a good NASCAR game, you have to have input from drivers, real life drivers and teams to get the physics right in the games. You could have pretty tracks and everything else, but if you don't have the correct physics, it's completely useless. And R Factor completely failed when it came to, some guys made some beautiful mods and everything, but the physics just meh. I'll use the word meh, if that's a word. And just dreadful, really, in my opinion. And I was even in the room with the guy as an alpha, pre-alpha tester for Arca Sim Racing, which was made from R Factor. What was it called? The G motor engine physics, and that was probably the best representation. Arca Sim Racing, by far the best representation of a NASCAR style racing made with the G motor R Factor engine, and the closest, and it still was, so. Great job, very talented people made it. I'm not gonna knock any of that because they made the most of what they could with not the exact perfect software. So then they came up, Uconix, or however you say it, Utechnix. It was just a horrible game, really. It was a game. It was an arcade game, not a real sim. Let's just put it that way. And they actually did some decent road racing, arcadish though, road racing titles. I forget what the name of their road racing was. Then they made a good go at it, but it didn't work out. And they actually recruited someone from iRacing, one of the top iRacers, who I can't recall his name, but he was like he had won the iRacing championship, and they hired him as one of their testers and workers. I don't know if he worked on the actual code or not, but and he was to give them some legitimate feedback. Then they kind of disappeared, and then NASCAR Heat came along, and I'm not sure the whole history, but I remember the main guy, who I can't think of his name right now, Ed. His name was Ed something. He was on the team that made the NASCAR 2003 and 2002 games, I think. And so his vision was to make another NASCAR game that would have all the glory of the old Papyrus games, which that's a hard call. Like, but it just doesn't seem that anybody's able to make that game that just is as good as that game is. Still, even today, you could load it up and it will be better than any of these games that I'm talking about. And, they'll feel better, everything about it. The only thing is the cars do feel a little icy, but it's a good game, solid still, even almost 20 years later. So NASCAR Heat comes along. Then NASCAR Heat comes along, and NASCAR Heat, I'm like, all right, I'll try it out. Again, very much not the pinnacle, but like down on the plateau of good arcade game. They build the game so it could be played with a controller. That's probably their first mistake. Should probably build the game so it works great with a wheel first and then controller secondary. And the game is just I don't know. It's just you play it. I buy the game when it goes on sale for like $4 or $5. Then it's worth to mess around for a few hours for some entertainment purposes. But I would not recommend any of the NASCAR Heat games as a simulation, really. So now it comes along this NASCAR Ignition, and that's where the topic was. Sorry, it took me so long to get to the point here. Here on Race Department, there's an article that came out 2 days ago, Thursday. NASCAR 21 Ignition Development Roadmap revealed. Motorsport Games has unveiled their development plans over the coming months for NASCAR 2021 Ignition. There's very little detail given in the roadmap image. Owners of the game can hope that many of the long-standing issues with NASCAR 21 will be addressed simultaneously with future and DLC releases. This month will give players a chance to race in stages, a feature of the Real Cup Series notably absent in the launch of the title. For me, I don't really like the NASCAR stages. I like them to go back to the old NASCAR racing. I don't really like it at all. So that was not a big deal to me. Private parties will also be added soon, giving groups of 6 players or more the chance to hold private race. Whoops, excuse me. Let me turn that off. Sorry about that. Okay, we're back. Next month, perhaps the most intriguing upcoming feature will be released as players will have the chance to drive next generation NASCAR Cup cars. This will be released along with a shaky cam. Oh God, please no. Video mode that can be turned on or off. Last month in this roadmap, April should see the Gen 9 PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series console updates for the game. So the rollout will be a little bit later for consoles. And here's a picture of their patch notes: January, private party stages; February, next gen, shaky cams. I mean, that's most people that are sim racers would just look at that and just like shake their head like, what the hell? And April, then the Xbox and Series X upgrade. I mean, by now, we're into 2022. Like, they do all this up to April. So, when will they be putting out another game? There are a lot of strong opinions about NASCAR 21 Ignition in the sim community. So be sure to share your thoughts on this roadmap or NASCAR 21 in general in the comments below. Which feature would you like to see improved title? Let's take a look at some of these. The very first comment is LOL. Oh, goodness. The second one is roadmap for 2020. Fix all the bugs. Impossible. bring back the reputation. Impossible. Their new, which is not true because there's a lot of games out there that have a turnaround. It just in racing is very, very difficult, and I've never really seen any companies really turn their reputation around. Um, Case in fact, the NASCAR series by EA and NASCAR series by Heat, whatever Equinox, Uke Techniques, whatever the hell it's called. It's gone now, so it doesn't matter. Um, Also, uh, Project Car, Project Car series, which came out with Shift first, that had a very, it was in a lot of turmoil. Let's just say that, as far as like a lot of arguments going on different forums about that game always, and about how how sim like it was. Currently, the game does not cater to sim racers at all. Fixing the state they released this game is going to take a while. At least they don't abandon it. That's true. They're not abandoning it, but they don't have a choice to abandon it because, I mean, they could just come out with a 2022 and try and sell it, but they've already got people that, the milk is curdled type of thing. It's a good start towards redemption. Now, there's a game called No Man's Sky, who took a lot of hits. Of course, it was a space game, and they took all kinds of flack for their release and the promises they made, but they delivered, and the game has sold probably more copies, or as many copies as like in the top 10 or 5 games on Steam. So, if you work hard on your game, and it took them like a year or two to, turn everything around. So they keep working on it. So maybe something can happen. Never say never. Wonder where make the game playable was hidden. Did race department ever review this? Is this a joke? All kidding aside, I literally forgot this game was a thing. Given how interested to see how it would turn out, it's probably not a great sign. I'm still waiting for NASCAR 22 and BTCC the game. This was the most interesting of all, really, and probably not a good sign. This guy's comment. If his comment is I didn't research his facts, but if what he's posted is factual, this is the most interesting comment. That will be in the future, yet to be determined, but soon update. And I did read that they had DLC. Whoa. On a related note, Motorsport Games was celebrating a 1-year anniversary of IPO by ringing the closing bell on NASDAQ with a $4.04 closing price, far from 1-year high of $37.35. So if anybody bought into that stock when it was this price, you've lost a lot of money, unfortunately for you. Hopefully for MSGM and R Factor 2, they're putting forward a better effort on future release. Otherwise, that next game may be their last. So, Motorsport Games, unfortunately, it was very exciting news, kind of, when it came out. This is their website. Motorsports Games is a global team. Our HQ is based in sunny Miami, Florida, and hosts the digital marketing and product development teams. The 704 Games team, based in nearby Orlando, will work on a NASCAR Games franchise. In Moscow, Russia, we have a first-class development operation delivering the very latest technology of our future products, as well as additional development and esports operation based in England. Let's take a look at their games. NASCAR Ignition, R Factor 2, NASCAR Heat, NASCAR Mobile, Heat Evolution, a lot of NASCAR stuff. So this is basically what's saving them is R Factor. They're in a bad way, this company, I think. Unless they turn this NASCAR thing around, or maybe, probably what a good move for them would be to bring out an Indy title, IndyCar. They have the capability of doing such. If they could get the license for IndyCar, that would really probably give them a boost in the arm and sales for console. But this is a company that's sounded on paper exciting last year, but not so much. And R Factor, really, to be honest, you could keep R Factor. Not interested. I played R Factor 1 for a long time. I'd rather play a lot of other games ahead of R Factor. And some R Factor fans will probably take exception to that, but it's just my opinion, of course. And they're welcome to their opinion. SteamDB, it seems Steam work hard. Beta branch. I think the team overestimated their strength, deciding if they could do something in UE when the race game is a piece of cake. Nicely put. As you see the comments, probably mostly people that played the game. No review copy was given. The game was unplayable anyway, or maybe I'll remember the wrong game. Seeing how peak number of players on Steam ever for this game is 141 players, and average players last 30 days is under 20. Yeah, they're in trouble. I personally hope that they turn their game around. I think it would be great for NASCAR racing if some company could develop a good NASCAR game, but unfortunately, at present date, there really isn't anything as a standalone NASCAR game that is really good other than NASCAR 2003. I wonder how many of you naysayers even tried the game before you came here and started bashing. I'm not saying you're wrong in your assumptions by any means. To be fair, hot lapping around road courses feels pretty great if you could figure out how you get your wheel working properly. The G-motor engine is definitely present beneath all the bugs, but not worth the time and frustration at this point. There's the problem, which I did not know. G-motor engine for NASCAR racing is the problem. That in itself, right there, it says everything. I don't even have to go any farther in the stream. G-motor engine is not good for NASCAR style racing. It might be okay if they made it for Indy, because Indy has a lot of road tracks involved, and if they went low on the ovals, it might work out. This guy has refunded the game, but the game didn't shut down properly when he finished messing around, so I clocked in 12 hours of playtime overnight. Oh, wow. He would have refunded it, but Steam clocked him over 12 hours because the game didn't shut down properly. That's annoying. In addition to these big requested features listed in their roadmap, they say they're bug squashing and making other improvements, hoping that pans out, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Another thing not mentioned in this article is that they've opened up a porthole to submit questions for a January 26th Q&A session with the devs. I'm sure they'll cherry pick the questions which allow them to praise themselves and how great a sim NASCAR 21 is. But yeah, Q&A session is a thing. I imagine they can't ignore the demands or answers regarding wheel support from 40 people who bought the game. Should they choose to ignore the real questions, they'll be putting the final nail in their own coffin and dooming the future releases in their licensed games to complete with commercial failure. Hence, this is not his opinion, but hence the $4, a sheer stock price drop. $30 to $4, that's a huge drop. I kind of feel sorry for them. If they don't go out of business before said WTCC and other games are set to release, that is, sim racers hold grudges forever, and there's no way they're ever going to dig themselves out of their hole if they don't get this thing playable, fun state within the next month or so. Worse than milestones, I say they're treading into that territory. These guys seriously pissed me the hell off big time. So, not favorable reviews on... This company has a lot of work to do. NASCAR 21 Ignition. I decided to pass because NASCAR Heat was a pile of dung. And it feels like from reading all these comments, it's just this NASCAR Ignition is just a carry on over from NASCAR Heat. And it's just hot garbage. And it's too bad because I hope they work hard to fix it. Because I really... personally would like to see this be a huge success. So I'm pulling for you, Motorsport Games, but I'm not counting on it. And I'm going to wait till I buy this. And until then, I will stick to my very old copy of NASCAR 2003. Everyone have a great day. Hope you enjoyed race. You can check out Race Department at www.racedepartment.com, and thank you for viewing.